My name is Ahlam Baluki. I'm the director of the Emirates LitFest, and I'm the CEO of the Emirates Literature Foundation. And it gives me great pleasure to be moderating this discussion with two very remarkable women tonight. They are in no need of introduction, but if you allow me. Our first speaker is Eliza Reid, who is a writer, editor, and co-founder of the annual Iceland Writers' Retreat. She's the First Lady of Iceland, since her husband, President Gudni the Johannesson, was elected president in 2016. As First Lady, she's been active in promoting gender equality. Her first book, Secrets of the Sprakar, Iceland's Extraordinary Women and How They Are Changing the World, was an instant bestseller, recommended by Margaret Atwood, Hillary Clinton, and many more. Baroness Floella Benjamin, OMDBE, is an actress, presenter, writer, independent producer, politician, and advocate of children throughout the world. She's best known for the iconic TV programs Play School and Play Away. She's been in the entertainment industry for 53 years and has received many awards, including an OBE, a BAFTA Lifetime Award, the Women in Film and Television Lifetime Award, and the J.M. Barrie Award for her legacy to children's creative arts. She's written over 30 books and was Chancellor of University of Exeter and entered the House of Lords, where she speaks on diversity, equality, and children's issues. Please join me in welcoming Baroness Floella Benjamin and Her Excellency Eliza Reid.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. Gott kvöld, as we say in Iceland.
Are there any of my Play School babies here? Here's looking at you through the round window.
I was just saying, even I lived in England in the 70s and I watched that all the time. It's very exciting.
It's so wonderful to have you both here, and we're so looking forward to this discussion. I'm so passionate about the causes to which you have both dedicated your lives to. Eliza, you have dedicated your life to talking about gender equality and sharing with the world the case of Iceland. Baroness Floella, you have dedicated your life to children and making sure that they feel loved and seen. And I'd love to talk with both of you about where this drive to give to these causes came from in your own experiences. If we can start with Eliza.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you very much for inviting me to the festival for my very first time in Dubai in the UAE. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Gosh, I don't think that there was a light bulb moment for me about why I thought that gender equality, women's empowerment was important. But I suspect that my parents might tell you that it was something I asked a lot about when I was growing up in a small town in Canada. And, I remember my people getting married and me saying, why is the woman changing her name when she gets married? How come she doesn't get to keep her own name? Or complaining that I had a curfew when I was a teenager and my brothers did not have a curfew when I was a teenager. And, the tiny, tiny little things. But I should emphasize that I always had the opportunity when I was growing up, although I grew up in a very kind of traditional household when it came to gender role models, with my mother staying at home and being the primary caregivers for us, and my father working outside of the home. I never felt like I was limited in that opportunity, and I always felt like I could do whatever it was that I wanted to do, and that my gender shouldn't limit me in any way. But I think as I got older, you realize that not everybody has that opportunity, and it's just something that has always struck me as very important. And when my husband was elected president of Iceland in 2016, he had never run for public office before. He's a professor an academic by background. And so the process of him becoming elected and not just a public figure, but the head of state of the country was literally a couple of months. And so it was very quick. And I thought, well, this is an unbelievably unexpected opportunity in my life, and I need to use that opportunity and not squander it. And the idea of gender and gender equality is important to me. And my first instinct was, it's too bad I can't do anything about that because I'm probably not allowed to as First Lady. Because what about, it's too ironic when my husband achieves something for me then to go and talk about gender equality. But then I had to get over that because I thought I do have a platform and I do have this moment maybe when more people are listening to me. And even though I'm all of a sudden identify primarily by who I'm married to, which is a very strange feeling, maybe that's also my moment to remind people that we all have a voice and that we should all be trying to use our voices.
Wonderful. And yourself, Baroness?
Well, I feel really, really lucky because, like you, I had the most incredible mother. My mother was an earth mother. I had a great father as well. My father was like a philosopher. He was like an adventurer. He opened my mind and our eyes to the world. But it was my mother who told us how to capture the world. She was a woman who instinctively knew what was the right thing to do. And I was always brought up with confidence. Confidence is the key for every child. Confidence and love, unconditional love. Children need to know they're loved unconditionally. And both my parents showed me that. So when you are loved and you are confident, you know you can capture the world, even though people might put you down. Because there are many, many people out there who want to put you down, especially when you are succeeding, when you're in a place where they think, I would like to be, so they try and drag you down. But my mother, she told us, look above people's heads. Don't look into their faces. Look above their heads. Rise up. And everybody who met my mother wanted her to be their mother. I remember introducing her to Princess Diana. And Princess Diana said, oh, Mrs. Benjamin. She rubbed my mum's arm. My mum had beautiful skin. Rubbed my mum's arms and said, oh, Mrs. Benjamin, I wish you were my mum. So I was lucky to have a mother who said to her children, education is your passport to life. And if you want to do something in the world, you learn, you learn, you learn. So education, she actually instilled that fact that once you have an education, no one can take it away from you. So I went to school and I learned. I felt a sense of pride. I sensed a sense of worth, even though living in Trinidad, because I was born in Trinidad in 1949. Hey, I'm 75 this year.
Amazing.
And I learned all about England. I learned that sense of pride. I didn't learn anything about my ancestors, but at the time it didn't really matter because I knew I was somebody, because I was part of the British society, part of the motherland, even though later on I realized, no you're not. But as a child growing up, I understood that. Because you see, every child is born with over 84 billion brain cells, no connections. By the time they're 18 months, the connections have started. Touch, feel, what you teach them, what you show them, how we love them. Attachment. By the time they're 7, clunk, they are made. So the saying, give me a child at the age of 7 and I'll show you the man or the woman, has scientifically been proven to be true. So I had a really great grounding. I had a really fantastic feeling that I was worthy. I remember when I was 15 months, my dad was a musician, and I went to a function where he was playing. And apparently I got onto the stage at 15 months and I said to everybody, stop dancing, you're not doing it right. This is how you dance. And so I've always been outspoken because of that confidence. So when I did play school, all the things I'd learned in my life, all the adversities I've been through, all the feeling of caring for people, understanding people, all the feeling of being confident is what I used on play school, because I knew children were watching me. And it was my duty to make those children feel loved, appreciated, and confident. And so that's when I learned about being able to speak out for children. I learned to see the world through the eyes of the child, because when children see the world, they see it quite differently to us adults. I want everybody in this audience today to start being childlike, not childish, but to see the world for the first time, that simple way. And the way of treating the world is with kindness, consideration, and thoughtfulness. Most children want to do that, but it's us adults who poison their minds. And so all the time, I'm there speaking up for children. I remember when I did play school back in 1983, I started campaigning to get a minister for children, a cabinet-level minister for children. So because every single policy that we have affects children, directly and indirectly, everything we do. And so I wanted the government to make sure that all the decisions they were making were considering children, looking through the eyes of the child. And so I've seen the results. I've been doing that, I did play school 48 years ago. And so I've seen the results from people who've grown up who said to me, because of you, I'm doing what I'm doing. Because of you, I'm now giving. Because of me, I'm now a teacher. Because of you, because of you, because of you, because of you, of everything you taught me through the television screen. So I know everything that I've achieved in life is because I've been able to view the world differently, not just as a woman, but as a human being. Because it's important that us women tell our boy children how to be considerate, how to see women not as somebody who gets to dinner, make the babies, do this, do that. No, but somebody who has an equal part in a family's life, in the life of the world, to be nurturers. Because as women, we're nurturers. We bring life into the world. We deliver babies. And those babies need to be nurtured, especially the boy babies. Not so much the girl babies, because, we all tell girl baby, you've got to be strong, you've got to be independent, you've got to be this, yeah. But what do we tell the boys? Today I did a session for schools. It was wonderful. But I said to the boys, I want you to grow up respecting women, loving women, treating women with equality and understanding. Because once you do that, it's such a great feeling that you yourself get, because, again, that simple word of giving. And to be able to give and to love unconditionally is the most incredible thing you can do. And to give, because I went to a prison, and I was talking to the prisoners, and I said to them, the best drug you can have in the world is the drug of giving. And if you can give the satisfaction that you get, you go, hallelujah, hallelujah, I feel good, da 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 da. I knew that I would now when you give. That's the feeling that you get.
But I have to ask you, the fact that you had difficult situations in your childhood and you had happy moments in your childhood, but the fact that your outlook on life as an adult is based on the good is a rare thing. How did that happen?
Well, as I said, every morning I wake up, I say, take me, show me, lead me, I'm yours. And if you feel spiritually connected to the world around you, if you understand that you are a person who's just an instrument to let things flow through you, to let things happen, to give, it's everybody in this audience can do that. If you learn to meditate, to breathe, to slow life down, not to be obsessed, not to be wicked, not to be angry, but just to cool it. Because everybody who's feeling that kind of anger and frustration is because they are hurting inside. When you love who you are, when you feel good about who you are, you just want to spread love. You don't want to be selfish and keep it to yourself. You just want to make other people around you feel happy. And the energy that you give off kind of helps you to make a life worth living. Because many people that I meet say to me, when I was a little girl, when I was a little boy, I was going through a bad time. But because of your smile and because of your energy through the television screen, I knew I could be somebody. I went to Hull. I was a chair of the City of Culture, and Hull became the City of Culture in 2017. And a woman came into the room. As we were talking now, she came in. When she saw me, she kind of almost buckled underneath. I thought, what's very strange? And she stood at the back of the room, and when I finished and everybody got their selfies and their autographs, she came towards me and said, "I'm really sorry I acted that way, Floella. But when I was 8, I was fostered. And my foster parents had 2 sons. And every day, those boys used to come home and sexually abuse me. But the only thing that got me through it, Floella, was seeing your smiling face, giving me love, making me feel good about who I was. And I knew somebody out there loved me." She said, "I'm now 48 years old, and whenever I'm going through a dark period in my life, I think of you, because you are somebody I can cling on to, because I know you love me." What more can you ask for? I cried that day, but it just shows you that all of us, you never know who's hurting. You never know who's thinking about what happened in their past. You never know what's going on in someone's life. You never know. So why not say to that person, "I love you," just through the smile. Just looking, acknowledging that they are a human being. Because so many women especially are hurting. So many women are going through violent relationships. So many women are being put down. So many women are feeling, "I cannot do this." Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And have that determination and that drive and that force for good. But you have to put it out. You have to put it out and say, "I am worthy. I am worthy. I can do this." So that's where I found it. So I find it quite easy. I find it quite easy to do that because every day I get love poured into me. So I've got a right to pour the love back into other people.
And I think, doesn't that also show us how we are all role models and the influence that we all have on those of us, those who are around us? And I often get asked about, policy questions or issues of achieving greater equality or gender equality, and thinking in some sense we need to leave this up to politicians or decision makers or lawmakers or other people, or somehow have a trickle-down effect. And that this is a huge issue that I, as one person, can't possibly have an impact on, because maybe I can go and vote somewhere and vote for someone who I think down the line will do this, or maybe I can talk to my company or buy something that will have an influence. But really, I can't personally do anything. But we can do everything. Together, we can all change the world.
Exactly.
And we all have that influence and that power and that voice. And yes, some of us ended up, for various circumstances, we have maybe a louder voice at certain points in our lives, or more opportunity to use that. And I think that when we have those situations, we also need to remember to hand that proverbial mic to other people, to make sure that we have a variety of voices being heard, so that people know that what they say matters. And we can choose if what we say is going to have a positive or a negative effect on those around us. But it's really, really important.
Exactly. And you're talking about voice. There's also the voice in your head. There's a good voice and there's a bad voice. The good voice tells you what you should really be doing. The good voice is probably telling you what we here on the stage have told you, but you haven't listened to it, because there's a bad voice that's saying, "No, you can't. We won't do that." And suddenly, the bad voice often morphs itself into the good voice, trying to pull you back, keep you down. No, free your soul. Just be, as I'm saying, just be. And if you just be and you allow it to happen, be still, it comes to you. So you need moments when you get that, because you can't go rushing, like somebody on a Ferris wheel just going round and round and round. No, you've got to be still and find your moments when you're still. I'm sure you found your moments.
That's how I wrote a book when I was doing we have this phrase in Iceland. Now I'm going off on a tangent, but a phrase in Iceland, a ganga með bók í maganum, which means to walk with a book in your belly. That we all have a story to tell that we're waiting to give birth to. And I run a writers' festival in Iceland, and people always ask me, what book are you working on, and what's the story in your belly? And I said, I don't have one. I have 4 kids, and I'm running this festival, and I'm the first lady, and I'm doing jobs, and because you don't have any time. Mm-mm. And then when the pandemic hit, and I'm walking my children to school one at a time because it was staggered, and I'm walking maybe 10 kilometers a day, and you're just thinking about everything and how you're going to try to help world peace or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when you get those moments and those ideas, as you say, when you stop. And it puts everything in perspective, doesn't it? It's the same thing. If you get an email and you think, oh, this email's really irked me somehow, never reply to the email then.
Exactly.
always wait. It's the sun will rise in the morning.
Yeah, I did 10 consecutive London marathons. I did my first one when I was 50, just to prove that I could do something that I'd never done before. I did it, and I thought, hey, if I trained, because I didn't train to do the first one, if I trained, I could actually get a better time. And doing that training, as you said, gave me those moments when thoughts came into my head. So you've got to find something, maybe not running marathons, but running marathons is a great way of thinking. Gardening is another thing. If you're gardening, when you're gardening, suddenly things are coming into your head. When you're decorating.
Knitting
Knitting is another one. So you have to find what's right for you to be able to get to those still moments that I'm talking about that makes you then suddenly feel as if you can produce, you can achieve, you can be creative, you can be adventurous, you can do things that you never thought imaginable. But you can. Don't ever limit yourself. And even if you fail to do it, like when I did my first marathon, I did it in nearly 6 hours. But I did the next one, I did it in 4.5 hours. That's because I was determined because I don't like failing. And even when I fail, I try and find out, why did I fail? How can I better myself? What can I do now to make sure that I'm achieving what I want to achieve? And don't ever go to the very, very top, because if I try to do it in 2.5 hours, I'd kill myself. But to me, 4.5 hours for a 50-something-year-old was really fantastic. So that was my sense of achievement.
You are both remarkable women in that you have achieved so much. And you are both actually of foreign origin in your countries. So, Eliza, you're from Canada. Floella, you are from Trinidad. And you have made it, to the highest levels of, First Lady, being in the House of Lords. What is the secret for women who are here today and anyone who is watching this? What was the infrastructure around your lives that allowed you both to flourish so much?
So it's interesting you say this, because this is something that maybe we see often that women have, is this imposter syndrome. When you start talking to me and say, you've achieved the pinnacle of success. And as soon as you say that, I think, I haven't. I'm married to someone who achieved the pinnacle of success, and I haven't really done anything at all. But that's almost the point that I try to make, is that fate hands us these different opportunities or not. And what I do have control over is what I do with it. And what I do have control over is the contribution that I'm making to Iceland. And I moved to Iceland when I was 27 years old, 5 years ago. No. A long, long time ago. After meeting my husband actually in England, kind of contriving to win a date with him in a competition, and that's a whole other story. But we met, we fell in love, it's a traditional kind of story. We moved to Iceland, his homeland, and I knew I was always going to be there because of him, at least for the long term. Even if we didn't always live in the country, I was always going to have a connection to the country. And I thought, okay, I'm going to move to this country. Obviously, I'm moving because of him, but I want to stay because of me. And I want to build up my own raison d'etre for living in Iceland.
Also, just to say, it wasn't super traditional because you proposed to him.
I did propose to him.
And then when you moved to Iceland, you were supporting him financially.
True, that's also true. Yes. Well, we had been dating for a while in the UK, and again, we were going to move to Iceland together, and I thought, well, if I'm moving to this small country in the North Atlantic, I think I'd like to be married to do it. And he hadn't asked me yet, and I thought, well, I have a voice, I'm not, and I'm a very direct person. I'm not very good at leaving a ring catalog on the table or something, something like this. So we went away to Cornwall for a long weekend, and I proposed to him, and he said yes. And then he called his mother in Iceland to tell her. He said, we just got engaged. And she said, oh, that's wonderful. I hope you did it properly. And he said, yes. And he told her later, but he couldn't bring himself to tell her right away that he was a little slower off the mark. But we moved to Iceland, and so it was so important for me to get a job that I liked, to learn the language, to make my own network of friends so that I could really contribute to society. And so I really started doing that very quickly. And Iceland isn't, it's an interesting country in the sense that we have seen a lot of changes in the 2 decades that I have lived there when it comes to immigration and diversity. In 1995, 0.5% of the country was foreign-born, and now it's 20%. We have more people of foreign origin in Iceland than we have senior citizens. So we are a much more diverse country than I think people think we are, and it's happened in a very rapid amount of time. So we are not yet seeing that diversity reflected in the power structures of society. We are not yet seeing that diversity reflected in members of parliament, in people who we see on our television screens, and in the media, and writing books. And for me to be serving in this very visible role as a woman of foreign origin, I should actually add that the previous First Lady is also foreign origin, so that helped. I wasn't that new. But it's very important for me to, for example, do a lot of speeches, because I do speak good Icelandic now. I've learned it as an adult, but I speak with an accent. I make a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of embarrassing mistakes, like the time I was at the choir practice and asking them all, instead of if we needed to go to the concert in our choir uniforms, if we needed to wear pudding to the concert, which we did not need to wear pudding. But there's many, many mistakes, and I think it's, as you said, goes down to confidence and feeling comfortable in your own skin and saying, I'm trying my best. And when you try your best, you're going to make mistakes.
Exactly.
And that happens, and that's okay. And for me in my role as an immigrant, it is really important for me to show that even though I speak with an accent, even though I make mistakes, it doesn't mean I don't have something important to say. And it doesn't mean that I can only speak to quote unquote immigrant issues. And I also try to highlight, I have my own experience of moving to Iceland, but my experience isn't the immigrant experience. There is no one immigrant experience. And I think that is something that we need to work on as well, but while also acknowledging that people of foreign origin face different challenges in the country than people who are native born, not least because of networks that you have already, but also maybe if you look different from a lot of other people, if you practice a different religion, or all sorts of different reasons. So it's something that I focus on a lot in Iceland as well, because I want to celebrate. I grew up in a pretty multicultural country that celebrates its diversity and celebrates its multiculturalism, and I like to try to showcase that within Iceland, and I think it's an area that we can improve on absolutely in the country. So again, I think that it's just that idea of diversity and that idea of needing to show people that diversity, because people, and you talk to children, and I say this a lot now in Iceland, we have, again, we've this explosion of immigration, and we first generation immigrants, I think, know often, and I shouldn't say to me, I've been successful, but first generation immigrants often kind of know you might not have the same chances in a new country that you would in your home country, even though on average we're better educated than the homegrown population is. But our children need to know that they should have the same opportunities. And our children who are born and raised in that country but maybe look different or have a different name or whatever need to know that they have the same opportunities. And if they reach those age when they find that they don't, or they don't see that reflected, or they're not giving them opportunity, that's a societal challenge. And I think that it's really, really important to show that and to show, and I call it like wearing your diversity glasses. That isn't just down to lawmakers. That isn't just down to policymakers. That is down to all of us to make sure that, when we're making committees, when we're organizing clubs, when we're choosing the television that we watch and the stories that we're reading, that we are being diverse in that representation.
Exactly. She needs applause for saying that. Come on. Because Everything you've just said is what I have fought for all my life. I didn't go to university. I left school at 16. I went to the University of Life and studied common sense and empathy. It's very rare that you study that sort of thing. And I've always been an organizer. When I left school, I joined the West Indian Students' Union to talk about diversity, exactly, about how you fit into a society as a young person. Because I came to England, I went to England when I was 10, at the age of 10 in 1960. I was 10 going on 11. And people stared at me, people spat at me, but what are you doing here? But I knew I had a sense of purpose. I knew that I was here because Britain told me back in Trinidad that I was British. They didn't tell me anything about my ancestors. They didn't tell me my ancestors came from Africa. They didn't tell me my ancestors, if they were hung, drawn, and quartered if they protested. I didn't learn any of that. So I felt, as I got older, that we need other people to understand that me, somebody of color, has got history as well and background that you have to have empathy with and understanding with. So everything, that's been the driving force in my life in England to make those changes. So I organized the Students' Union to get them to speak out. I then, as I said, when I went on play school, I try and get people to see that for children, being exposed to children's programs was important, that they saw the diversity of the society they were living in. Because when I used to read the stories, as some of you know, hello, today we're going to look through the windows, and I tell a story. But all the stories are all of white children in the graphics, in the illustrations. And I said to the producer one day, can't we have some black and Asian and Chinese faces in the illustrations so the millions of children out there will see diversity, children of color would see themselves so they know, you've got to see yourself to know that you're important, especially as a child. Because remember, as I said, those 84 billion brain cells, they're formulating ideas. That blank canvas is actually being joined up. So if you see people of color, differences around you, you accept it, you embrace it, knowingly that that's the way it should be. So to give her a due, the producer that day said, oh my goodness, I hadn't noticed. That's when I realized. My job was to get people to notice what is missing. The same what you said.
Because it's not that hard to fix.
Exactly.
If you acknowledge it and notice.
Exactly. You just gotta say, oh, I didn't realize. So you don't. I'm never aggressive when I'm telling people what's missing. I go, darling, look through the eyes of the child. Look through my eyes. I'll take you to a place that will make you see wonderment. And so I remember. When I got into television, I blagged my way into getting into television, being confident, you know. And the show I was doing, black people only played thieves and criminals. And I said to the producer again one day, I said, why can't we have black and Asian people playing kind of parts like accountants and lawyers and doctors? And they said to me, oh, but that's not realistic, is it? I'm telling you. What? That was 1974. That's when I started fighting to get diversity on the screen on television. As you say, the programs that we produce, the films that we make have got to reflect the diversity of our world. Not to be prejudices, not to have preconceived ideas about maybe a place here in Dubai, for instance, or what it's like in Africa, or in Africa, you know, we say Africa, but Africa
the one country of Africa.
You know what I mean? So you've got to actually open people's minds, the way I try to open people's minds on television with the little children watching, so they grow up accepting differences, embracing differences, and not feeling challenged by and kind of frightened of it and thinking it's going to get me. I remember trying to get diversity, not just in front of the screen, but behind the screen. And I was told, do you want me as a white person to give up my job to a black person? Because if you want diversity, that means I'm going to lose out. And I go, no. We're going to bring something out in you, something you can share, something you can see. And every place I've been, and I've been the first in many, many occasions, I was the first woman to wear trousers in a bank, when I worked in a bank, when I left school. And I turned up one day in a trouser suit, and they all went, that was 1966. You're wearing trousers, what's going on? And all the women said, oh, thank goodness you're wearing trousers. I can wear trousers now. You see, you got to see it to know you. So I was the first woman to appear fully pregnant on the screen back in 1981. CBS
That's
News.
where babies come from. Is that how?
And there's a pregnant woman appearing in a children's program. What's going on? And all the women said, thank goodness you're pregnant, you got pregnant. That means, women presenters and people working in television say, now that means I can get pregnant too. I was the first woman to be a chancellor of a university, a UK university, 2006, first black woman chancellor. And I changed the face of chancellorship. There are many, many universities now in Britain that have people of color who's the chancellor. And I hugged every single graduate. I did it for 10 years, and I hugged every graduate, and I stroked them, and I said, go out and change the world. Make a difference. See the world through the eyes of your chancellor. Promise me you'll do that. And they said, yes, Chancellor, I will. I will. And interestingly, being the chancellor, we gave out a lot of honorary degrees. And there was once a woman who was made head of a mining company. And she made an incredible speech about going out and changing the world through the eyes, of diversity and inclusion. And she said what she's going to do is get all the workers to be educated, to have health care, to make sure that their families and their children were cared for. Because that's what she wanted to do. She lasted 6 months because the men around her couldn't understand that. Because she didn't have enough women. So us women, we got to get in there to support one another. Once we are in there and numbers, we make sure that we speak with the same hymn sheet and we form collaboration and get the men to see it through our eyes as well. But
I think I really liked your point there as well about saying that people would feel threatened or not about something. But to me, when I'm talking about, I often talk about gender equality, but I really mean all types of equality and diversity. It's not a zero-sum game.
No.
It's not about taking something
No.
from one group and giving it to somebody else. It's about leveling the playing field for everybody.
Exactly.
Which makes everything more successful.
Exactly.
And we say the countries that are more gender equal are happier, more peaceful, longer living for people of all genders, not just for one group.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes down to that confidence again.
Exactly.
Somehow. If you have the confidence,
Exactly.
you will not lose your job
Feel
from it.
threatened. And I think, we need more women, because when you look at the state of the world at the moment, we haven't got enough women who are world global leaders. Because women, we're nurturers. We don't mind compromising. When I'm in the House of Lords, many of the ministers are my play school babies. They watched me when they were little, and now, they're watching me. And I say to many of them, I really feel we need to make the change here. I really want you to accept my amendment. I really want you to embrace what I'm trying to do. And I'll take nothing less than a compromise. Because you see, women, we're prepared to compromise. Men have got this macho ego. They don't feel they can compromise. If women rule the world, I am positive we would not be in the state that we're in at the moment. Because most children at the moment are suffering from mental problems. They cannot cope when they think of all the things that's happening. And I say to them, yes, I'm going to try and make it better for you as much as I can. Because we women have got to make sure we choose the right politicians to represent us in Parliament. Women who are brave enough, not women who want to turn into them being a man, but women who want to keep the qualities of womanhood and make sure the decisions that we're making, the things that we're doing around the table reflects humanity, to make sure that the children all over the world, not just children here in the UK, I'm not sure what the state of the children's minds are here in Dubai. I sometimes worry because they're coming from all over the world and joining up, and whether the parents have thought through what they're doing to their children. But mental problems that children are going through is something that we women have got to try and help children get through it. Because too many children are committing suicide. Too many children are self-harming. Too many children feel, why bother? Too many children are doing drugs. Too many children are pressing buttons. I'm not sure what the system here is in Dubai, but in America, in Canada, in Europe, children are pressing a button to watch online pornography, which is poisoning on their minds. Pornography is a gateway to other harms. Because when girls see porn stars looking a certain way, they feel they want to do that too. They have to, because the boys are telling them, this is what you need to do. If they can't, they start self-harming. The boys are now finding that they cannot have proper relationships because they think what they're seeing on the screen is what they should be doing. Got to stop. 12 years in Parliament. It took me 12 years, hard years, to get that law changed in Britain. We now have the online safety bill. I'm working with Ofcom, because Ofcom is going to be the regulator, to say to all the big tech companies, all the porn producers, this has got to stop, because children should not be able to just press the button and see these things. All these things, that's what, I mean, as a woman, when I first stood up in Parliament and saying this, everybody said, what's she on about? What's she talking about? 12 years, repeating it over and over, because I care about children. I care about what's happening to the future, because if we don't stop it, we're creating a conveyor belt of sex abusers. That's what we're doing. So everybody here, I'm not sure if you've got children, I'm not sure what your children are doing, but make sure they do not watch things that is not right for them at that given time. Make sure you know what they're watching. If they are going to be watching it, you talk about it to them. Children understand. If you start talking to them and explaining things to them and knowing that is not reality, that is a fantasy, and don't fall into the trap. As my mother used to say, never believe what you're seeing. Always think for yourself. Open your minds. Open your minds to the world. And actually, then you make your decision. That's what us women can do. Because we can see the other side. We can throw our minds beyond the horizon, look around, and come back and know this is what needs to happen. And us women mustn't shortchange ourselves and think, oh, I can't do it. I'm not important enough. I'm not clever enough. I'm not, and I've got to university. I haven't got a degree. But you've got common sense. Use that common sense. Feel that feeling in your heart and in your soul. And as I say,
but do it now, because as someone said, a woman that I spoke to in my book who was a media presenter and ran for president in 2012 and came in second, and she took 2 weeks off in the campaign to give birth to her third child. And everybody had said to her, is now really the right time for you? You know, maybe we should wait. And she said, women spend their whole lives being told, is it the right time for you now? Maybe I'll wait. And then you wait until you go to university. And then you wait until you get established in your job. And then you wait until you get married and you have children. And then your children leave home and they're old. And all of a sudden, you're very old and you've never done what you wanted to do because someone else told you it wasn't the right time to do it yet.
Exactly. That's a great example you've just reminded me of. When I used to do play school, I always thought, well, for the producer, actually, that's how I started writing books. Because when I complained that there weren't enough diversity in children's books, she said to me, well, why don't you start writing children's books? And that's when I started writing and getting children, you know, in picture books so they can see themselves. And I really felt, you know, this is something that I really wanted to do. And I just feel that if you grab opportunities and don't wait for people to say things. Because when I was in play school, I wanted to become a producer. And I said to, you know, a producer, the BBC, oh, I'd love to be a producer and make my own programs. And she said, oh, Floella, you've got to be terribly, terribly clever to be a producer. And I thought, oh dear, maybe I'll never become a producer. But then I met another woman. She was head of Channel 4. Rosemary Shepherd, her name was. And I said, we were at a function. I said, oh, I'd love to become a producer. Because she was the commissioning editor. And she said, oh, well, come and see me with an idea. And, you know, if I like it, I'll commission it. So I said to my husband, Keith, I've got the most wonderful husband, Keith. Where are you, Keith? Stand up, Keith. We've been together 53 years. Come on, stand up, Keith. Give him a hand. I said to Keith, because we worked together with a production company, and I said, we've got to have an idea. Let's go and see Rosemary. And it was a program called Treehouse, a talking tree with children singing and dancing and everything else. And she loved it. And I got £250,000 to make 13 programs, which is like impossible nowadays. But that's how I got on the road to making children. It was another woman who was confident enough to say to another woman who was confident enough to want to face the challenges and to, because I got a lot of things wrong in that particular production, but she gave me an opportunity. And we women, if we're ever in a position to give another woman an opportunity, please, 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 don't pull the ladder up. Don't shut the door and say, I'm in all right, I'm a woman, I've got there. Allow more to come in, to say yes, and support one another. And when you fail, the other woman's supposed to say, come on, pick yourself up, come on, we can do this together. Well, that's what men do. Men help each other. And us women have got to learn to help each other as well.
And I want to talk about women and
Also deserving of applause.
but, you know, modern day life, everything is so expensive and inflation, and everybody has such big aspirations. And when you have a family, you do want to give your family the best life possible. And often both parents do have to work, and, you know, by choice or for financial reasons. So what does this ideal family look like in the modern world? Because if both parents are working and the state of women affects the state of children directly, what does the ideal situation look like? Do you have it? And can you share?
Yes, I have. I'll give you my 3-point plan, and it's guaranteed to work. What is the ideal?
I mean, the case of Iceland, for example, where there's great
Sure.
laws. Let's talk about that.
I mean, the fundamentals in many senses haven't changed. It's unconditional love, safety, and security, and maybe not McDonald's every day. And I think that unconditional love, wherever you are, is the crucial thing. And then the rest comes down to choice. And if we're talking about countries or societies, I think we have an obligation to kind of facilitate that choice for families for what is right for them. So in Iceland, to use an example, as you say, we have the highest percentage of women in the OECD working outside the home. And that was done as a conscious decision also because we don't have a big population, and you need all that tax income and all of those ideas and everything also within the economy. And so there's a lot of government incentives, such as parental leave that is paid for both parents. And so if there's a father and he doesn't take his several months of government paid parental leave, nobody gets it. And then the childcare is heavily subsidized and also additionally subsidized if you have more than one child. So in our case, we had our children very close together. We kept getting lots of discounts for them. So those things, I think, are really designed to help facilitate further choice, to just make it a little bit easier, not to say you have to have children or you have to have many children, but maybe if you're choosing what size of family, you get to choose more based on what you want rather than what you can afford. And I hope that I think we live in a society where we're not judging other people for what they're choosing to do, provided any children they have are being raised in a safe and secure environment, as you said.
Yeah, I think, you see, my mother always told us how to be satisfied. And I think whether it's back when I was little or even today, the feeling of satisfaction is so important. When I came to England, I lived in one room, 8 people in one room. Can you imagine 8 people in one tiny room? I thought England, everybody lived in a castle, but that wasn't the point. Because they had signs saying, no Irish, no dogs, no coloureds. So you weren't allowed to get property. And we had to all cram into one small, tiny space. But my mother said, as you just said, this room is full of love, and love is all you need. We wanted to go and upgrade to a place called Beckenham in Kent, which is a white middle-class area. And my mum said, if you go and live there, you're going to get the best healthcare, the best education, and the best jumble sales. Jumble sales, a charity shop, second-hand. I'm in a charity thing, $9.99, isn't that great? Come on, applause, applause.
Well, I wear a lot of charity clothing too.
It's not what you wear, it's how you wear it.
That's
Charity,
right.
You see, because modern life is all about consumerism. We get consumed by we're told we want this, we need this. We put ourselves through expense. We're kind of thinking this will make our children happy. No, I deal with a lot of overprivileged children, and they're the most unhappiest children because they have the one asset, the one commodity that they need, unconditional love. The parents buy them everything. They go on all the amazing holidays. They have all the amazing designer clothes, but they haven't got love. So for modern living, we need to strip back and think, what is necessary? What do I really need? Will this make me happy? Because happiness is like the elusive butterfly. You're trying to find it, and you think because the world tells you you need it, you're grasping for it, you're wanting it. Because somebody else has got it, and they've got the promotion, they've got that, you think you need it too. You think of, and you're not thinking the disruption that you're doing. You're not thinking of the pain you're causing. You're not thinking of the anxiety, because so many people are suffering mentally. They're not happy. And they have mental issues because they are unhappy with what they feel they should be striving to get. Strip back. Do I really need this? There's a story about a man who used to go to the Caribbean, and he loved fishing. And he had a local fisherman who used to take him out fishing. And he said, to the fisherman, this very rich, wealthy man from America, came down, he said to him, hey, why you only have one boat? Maybe you should have several boats, a fleet of boats. And you can take more and more people out fishing. And you can make lots and lots of money. Why don't you think like that? And the man said, but I'm happy just with one person. I'm making the amount of money that I need to help me survive. If I have other boats, what am I going to do? I've got to worry about all those other boats. I've got to worry about all those other people. I'm satisfied and happy and contented. And I have what I call the philosophy of my 3 C's, which I want to share with everybody here. The first C is C for consideration, to have empathy and understanding for other people, because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they're having to face every day. You don't know what kind of violent relationships. I remember meeting a woman in a hotel, and she was smiling. And I said, you've got such a beautiful smile. And she said, I've got to learn to smile when I come to work because I'm free from my husband. Back home, when I wake up every morning, I don't know what kind of monster I'm going to be in bed with. And she said, you have made me want to smile. You never know what people are going through, so you have to be considerate. When someone serves you, look up at them, look in their eyes and say, thank you. They might need that, because you're probably the only person who would have said thank you to them. Consideration is what people need. When you do a job, don't think they're just a waiter or they're just a driver. No, they're a human being who has life, so we consider them. And the more privileged you are, the more consideration you need to show and have to show. It's so important. It makes you feel good, because you're giving, as I'm saying, you're giving, you're loving, unconditional. You don't want anything for it, but you want to make that person who you just said thank you to. In the restaurant, I looked around the table, and the waiters are bringing juices and coffees and everything to people on the tables. Most people don't look at the waiter and say thank you. The waiter just puts the glass down, they just pick the glass up and drink it. They don't know what the person looked like, who brought it to them. I always make a point of saying to the waiter, thank you very much, that's lovely, thank you. Consideration, as simple as that. The second C is C for contentment. To have a happy, contented heart. Not to be jealous and to be envious, and not to be consumed by consumerism, but to be able to be satisfied with what you have at that given time. Because you see, if you chant, and if you say, take me, show me, lead me, if you're waiting and listening to that good voice in your head, you know what the right thing to do. And good things will happen, and bad things will happen, but you won't be forcing it, because you're contented and you're satisfied. And the third C is C for confidence. The confidence to be a decent human being. The confidence to look in the mirror every day of your life and like the person that's looking back at you. The confidence to know that one day a door is going to open, and on the other side, you're going to be the rest of your life. The confidence to know that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and every disappointment is an appointment with something better. But you're going to need to be able to love and to give unconditionally. But that takes confidence, knowing you're not giving up something, as we said. But you're going to need a fourth C to wrap up your 3 C's.
Cookie.
Courage.
I like cookies.
Courage.
Yeah.
You need
That's
courage.
That's a good one, yeah.
If you don't have courage, you won't speak out. If you don't have courage, you won't say I want to do this, even if you know you might make a mistake, if you don't have courage to press the reset button and do things differently the ethical way, the courage to act with morality, with integrity, with honesty, and to be the person other people can trust. That takes courage. And if you can do all of that, your children will see you, and you'll be their role model. So they know when they go out into the world, this is how you behave. When you behave like that with other people, it'll rub off on them, because they will see these are the principles of life. So no matter where you go, because you can't say, well, he's done that, so I want to do that. No, wait for what's right for you. Have that feeling of satisfaction and contentment, and relax and wait for it. And it's great when it comes.
I feel like we have the same mother in many senses, you know,
Really?
the phrase. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, it's that idea of feeling comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean not being ambitious or not wanting to grow or progress or change or improve, but feeling comfortable with the fundamentals.
Exactly.
And working on that.
Exactly.
I will all tell you that when I am 50, I am not going to run a marathon. But sometimes I cheer on my husband when he runs half marathons.
Really?
And I always say, you also need people on the side who are cheering you along. But as you say, I am comfortable with the fact that I'm never going to run a marathon. And that's also okay. And I greatly admire the people who do it.
It's a great
and
feeling.
That's the balance.
It's a great feeling
Okay.
when you run a marathon, because life is like a marathon. You're going to hit the wall.
Yeah.
You're going to have ups and downs. And because you see, life is all about the mental frame of mind. If mentally you tell yourself something, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to fail, I can't do it, you will fail. But if your mind says, I'm going to do it my way, I'm going to do it comfortable in my own skin, I'm going to do it because I'm determined not to fall down. And if I do fall down, I'm determined to get up. Never, ever, ever, ever give up. Even though people might be horrible to you, even though people are putting barriers, even though people are trying to say, don't do it, you can't do it, you mustn't do it, you can't, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. I've been told that so many times. That's my book, What Are You Doing Here? That's what it's all about. What are you doing here? Because when we had the 2016 Brexit vote, I'm in a supermarket in Waitrose, and this man pushes a trolley in the back of my legs and said, what are you doing here? We voted to get you lot out. There was a lot of racism before the Brexit vote. And I said, I'm here to change the world. What are you doing? And he looked at me really, he expected me to be aggressive. I wasn't. I said, I'm here to change the world. What are you doing? How are you making a difference? And that's what we are to do. Everybody here, promise me when you leave here, you're going to think of ways of how you can change the world. No matter in the most tiniest ways, change the world and make other people happy. It's the best drug you can ever, ever have, and it's wonderful.
Round of applause. You have both given us so many treasures tonight. I think we are running out of time. Do we have time for a question? Yeah? Maybe one or two questions from the audience. Would anyone like to ask a question?
No questions. Wow.
See, speak up, the women especially.
Well, can I get the last question then? Can you tell us what the heart is that you always wear?
My heart, I received my heart 53 years from my amazing husband. He gave me that heart when we first met, my first present from him. And this heart has made many, many people happy and contented. Because a lot of people say to me, when I was on television on Play School, and I came on with my heart, because I always wear it, no matter what I'm wearing, I always wear my heart. And on the screen, a lot of children used to rub the heart, because they said, that heart was a magic heart. And when I meet a lot of people, they say, can I rub your heart? So I know it's not that heart, but it's this heart. So it's a heart full of love, a heart within a heart. And I've never taken it off. Well, I have taken it off. I wore it once in a sauna. So I take it off when I go into a sauna, but otherwise I keep wearing it because it reminds me of the wonderful love I have for my husband, who every woman deserves my husband, a Keith, because he is amazing, he understands womanhood, We brought our children up to respect women, and my son say to my husband, "You're the best role model I could ever wish for." And for me, I couldn't do all the things that I've had such an incredible life. I've done so much. I even hugged Barack Obama when he came to Parliament. And I said, "Mr. President, I want you to go out and keep on doing what you're doing, because you make children feel there is hope. Yes, I can. You make people feel that anything is possible. As a black man in America being a president, you don't know what you mean to the world. Promise me you'll keep on doing that. Promise me." Because I'm hugging him as I'm saying all this. And he said to me, "Yes, ma'am. I'll do my best, ma'am." Security is going, "Who the hell is this crazy woman hugging a president?" But I knew he was a hugger because his wife, Michelle, I love her. She's also a hugger. So, when you're confident, going back to being confident, it's like you can do anything. You feel you can do anything, even though other people might be embarrassed. But when I wear my heart, I know I'm loved, and I know that it's my duty to give out love. And it's all because of my darling Keith. Give Keith another big hand.
Floella, Eliza, thank you so much. Another round of applause for our amazing speakers tonight. Floella and Eliza will be signing the books out in the book signing queue, so if you'd like to get copies of their book, we're selling them outside at Magrudy's. And
do you know, I forgot to say, that book, What Are You Doing Here? There's a story about when I met the Queen when she came to Exeter. And she was the most incredible woman, and she told me all about her family, all about her children, all about food, all about the House of Lords, and she was amazing. And I thought, I can't believe I'm sitting next to the Queen, because we sat together having lunch. Because being the Chancellor, I had to take her around and introduce her to people and to entertain her. And I thought, well, this is my moment to tell her my story. So I said, Mom, when I was a little girl in Trinidad, I used to stand in the playground and sing "God Save the Queen." I was told I was British. I was told I was part of the motherland. But when I came to Britain, it wasn't like that. It was very, very tough. I had to face a lot of barriers and break down a lot of adversity. But I don't hate anyone. I've forgiven them all. Because there's people who've done some really wicked things to me. Forgiveness frees the soul. Forgiveness makes you feel happy. Forgiveness is actually the best drug. Because if you don't forgive, you remain a victim. And I remember she sat back in her chair, and her blue eyes sparkled. And she said, "Listening to you speak like this reminds me of my conversations with Nelson Mandela. He too has that same philosophy." Anyway, forward 10 years later, 2 days before she died, she had my autobiography on her desk. They had the hardback copy, that's the paperback. She had the hard, and there's a photograph of her and me in that book. And the story I just told you is in the book. 2 days before she died, she told her private secretary, Edward Young, "I want to appoint Floella Benjamin into the Order of Merit to show that little 10-year-old girl that anything is possible." 2 days before she died. Can you imagine thinking about that conversation that we had? And so the message is, never be afraid to speak your mind. When you meet someone, the Queen, the King, the President, be yourself. And it's because of me being myself, I am now appointed into the Order of Merit, which are only the highest order in the land in England, and only 24 living people are part of that Order of Merit, and I'm one of them, because I was being with the Queen.
Remarkable. Thank you both so much. And thank you all, our audience. We'd like to thank Emirates Airline, our title sponsor, Dubai Culture and Arts Authority, our strategic partners, and the Emirates Literature Foundation, the parent organization of this festival. Thank you all so much, and have a good night.
Thank you. Kak. Shukran.